Hi there, and welcome to another episode on the Work Boss podcast, where we share best practices in the workplace and how you can do things differently. Hi, I'm Natasha from the growth marketing team here at altHR, and today I'm joined here with Shereen, who is the co-founder of Coaching Moments at .co, and now I'm going to bring her on real quick so that she can give a brief introduction of it. Hi, Shereen.
Hello, Natasha. Good day to you.
Yeah, good day to you too. So maybe you could give a little bit intro of what coachingmoments.co is all about.
Sure. With my experience in HR and also my passion in helping people learn and develop themselves further, I founded coachingmoments.co to help and enable as well as empower people to live their lives as best possible in every moment as well. So yeah, it's a foundation, not really a foundation. It's a company that I work on to help both employees as well as organizations to live their best self possible.
Of course. So, is there a specific link or website we can find you on?
Sure. You can straight away just Google coachingmoments.co and it will lead you to discover your best coaching moment possible.
All right, awesome. So later I'll also link it down below. So if any of you all would like to check it out, you can also click it there. And today's our topic is about sharing about how to manage the new stresses that comes with transitioning back into the office. So Shereen, what do you think are the top 3 stress factors of an employee who is transitioning back to the office, and how do you suggest them to combat that?
I'm so glad you brought this topic up because the stress and the change that we had to go through in the last couple of years because of the pandemic really puts a toll both on the employees as well as the organization. So if you were to ask me what are the top 3 stressors, right? I would say it's number 1 would be the exposure and risk that employees face upon moving out of their comfort and safety and security of their home, right? So now with the with employees starting to go back to work and organizations are opening up, this is the number 1 area of stress because people don't know what to expect. Employees don't know how it will be like, and it takes a little bit of mental preparedness, emotional preparedness, as well as physical preparedness as well. The other 2 stresses could be also managing the stress of change, right? Because there's a whole change of routine now. So we move from working in an office, where everything is fully productive. There's a lot of face to face, and then we were in a lockdown for nearly 2 years, in and out of it, and there was a big change there, right? And just as we were starting to adapt fully to it, getting productive, getting efficient about it, now it's another change has come about. So the stress of change can take a toll on people because different people respond to change differently as well. And the last stressor would be, I would say, the social anxiety, right? Because we have been socializing in the last 2 years, mainly virtually. And there comes about this safety zone, right, that has been created, and a safety bubble that has been created through this virtual interaction. And experts have called this whole phenomenon as returnism. That means, this whole mental health of going back to society, going back to organization, has been, it is taking a toll on people. Yeah. And, they've labeled it returnism. And it's so interesting that this event is going to be very important for employers to also manage because you will have some dropouts if it is not managed properly.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's important that, managers are also equipped with the type of knowledge and the type of solutions for them to help assist their employees further, transitioning back. Yeah. So, what are some of the ways to suggest to managers in order to help ease the transition back to the office for their respective team members?
Mm. Okay, I like your question because I think the organizations and employers in general are doing the best they can to help employees come back to work, right? Come back to a physical working space. But there is also a missing link there in whereby leaders and managers also play a pivotal role in helping this transition. Right, oftentimes employees always throw the buck back to the organization. Hey, what does your company do? What does my company do to help me feel safe back in office? But you don't just interact with your company, right? A company is a tangible asset. On a daily basis, you interact with your boss, with your manager, with your leader. So they need to be aware, they need to be equipped and enabled and empowered to be able to manage their daily interaction with employees. Okay, so managers must first and foremost, in a way, engage with the teams that are returning to office, right? So involve them in the planning, right? Understand what works for them, what doesn't work for them, and help them in that transition phase, right? Don't go cold turkey, right? Today you are at home, and then tomorrow you're in office for the full day. That kind of change is really cold turkey, right? And it can be a shock factor to the employee. So involve them in the planning, engage them in the planning, and have this authentic conversations, authentic open conversations. Many a times these conversations can be quite tough and challenging because there's always a performance issue at stake. There's always the risk that the employee and even the manager may not be acceptable to the arrangements that they are talking about, and that could lead to attrition. That could lead to layoffs, etc. But having these authentic, open conversations help to manage expectations and work on a plan that is feasible and amicable for both parties. Last but not least, I would definitely encourage managers to be flexible yet objective enough. Right? It's never a black or white. It's never a yes or no. There are so many gray areas that managers and leaders nowadays need to adapt and be conscious of. One of the biggest challenges in this flexible yet being objective type of spirit is, fairness or equality. Okay, so managers and leaders tend to use the equality card to say that I want to treat everyone equal. But everyone is not equal, right? Everyone comes with different backgrounds, different challenges, different constraints. So you need to treat each employee fairly, right? Some employees may come to the physical office more often because they are comfortable, they have support at home, and their work nature simply needs them to be in a physical space. Some employees may work from home more often. Some employees may have a hybrid arrangement. So these are the three things that I would really advise managers, right? Have these authentic conversations, involve the employees in the transition, and last but not least, be flexible yet objective.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And also, I think another thing is to be very compassionate and also have that very welcoming environment when you talk to your employees. Because if you're very restricted and you feel like you're always being judged, the employee themselves wouldn't want to open up as well.
Yes, yes. Sometimes it's also, managers or leaders tend to use the organization's policies or HR policies to govern these behaviors or arrangements. But those days are long gone, right? Because HR policies and company policies can only govern to a certain extent. At the end of the day, you are not working with robots, you are working with human beings, and each individual is different. So you got to use that sense of discernment, that sense of compassion to work with your teams on future working arrangements.
Yes, for sure though. And also since we're talking about that, on top of that, what are some reasonable adjustments that employees could possibly suggest to their employers, it could be an example of checking in more often, having tools to track their work progress, and etc. So what do you think, in your opinion, could be an additional factor or add on to whatever examples I've mentioned?
Okay, great. Those are really great examples that a lot of organizations and teams have also adopted, right? Regular check-ins, you have Monday check-ins, Friday check-outs, tools, hybrid tools, virtual tools, etc. Even, your ergonomic chairs, right? In the last two years, companies have also been helping employees to work from home. So in this transitional phase, back to a physical working space, I think what employees can suggest to work with employers and organizations is looking at their roles assessment, right? So, does every role need to be in a physical office space, right? People who work in e-commerce, digital heavy roles, right? They can work anywhere and at any time, right? So role assessment needs to be in a way conducted and discussed, right? A receptionist, it will be very challenging to work from home. So it has to be in a physical space. So it's a role assessment to be suggested and to be discussed, right? And you may also suggest a hybrid working model. It's never neither or neither nor. So, maybe you work 3 days at your physical space and 2 days back at home or remotely, right? There was a study by PricewaterhouseCoopers in 2020 where they assessed more than 1,000 workers, and 55% of workers said that they prefer to work at least 3 days back in their physical space. And perhaps one last suggestion that employees can make to their organizations and their team, their managers would be flexible working arrangements. So it could be flexible hours, right? Because maybe your children are not yet fully in a physical school. You need time to settle them on their online classes, or you have parents or elderly folks that you need to take care of. So it could be flexi hours, it could be flexi days, it could be even flex locations, right? You have companies that have various locations. They can work from anywhere.
Yeah, I think it's just coming up with a solution that's a win-win for both sides. The employer could have that transparency of what you are doing, and the employee has that flexibility to do their work done wherever it is, as long as they meet the deadline.
Exactly. Yes.
We talked a lot about the employer side of thing or the company side of thing, but in terms of the some tips for the employees transitioning back to the office, do you have any tips to give them? It could be preparing what you need the night before so that you don't get anxious, or thinking of little things to look forward to going back to the office.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a good question there. As much as the employer and managers are preparing, to receive employees back, I think we as employees and the workforce should also take some steps of our own, right, to prepare ourselves. One great way to perk up for and get ready for this new phase of work is, of course, going through your wardrobe and all your clothes, getting prepared that way. It's just like a new school term, right? You go and check what works, what's what no longer is valid, and get yourself prepped up, motivated in that way. That is just one tip. Another tip is also to look at your own mindset, right? What's going on before you get to work? If you are getting anxious and stressed, try to look at what are the items that is causing distress. Is it the commute to work? Because we sometimes are so productive now at home. 7 o'clock is that we can already start producing work without going out of the house. But now there's the stress of traffic, parking and things like that, right? So look at yourself and think about what is exactly causing these stresses for you. Is it the meeting? Is it the lunch time with colleagues? Because before the pandemic, you would be very friendly with your colleagues and very close knitted and happy to go out for lunch. But now with the pandemic, or we are coming out of the lockdown, you may want to reserve. You may feel reserved in going out with your lunch buddies. So this can also cause you some stress. So look at what's causing you these stresses and be aware of it and try to work with people to understand more about how you're going to manage it. Yeah. My one last tip, of course, is self-care. Look at whether you're getting enough rest, because when you start going out to work, there is a different physical need, right? Mental need, emotional need when you're exactly at work versus when you're at home. So you gotta put back those self-care routines. Look at your nutritional needs. What are your food intakes? Are you getting hydrated enough? Enough sleep, enough rest, etc. Yeah. So these are some of the things that I would advocate for employees to do. And maybe one last thing is to really understand the risk and transparency in communication. For instance, right? Would you be brave enough to say you were exposed to COVID-19, right?
Okay.
Other than your employer discovering you through the mobile app, through MySearch, etc. So if you yourself suspect that you have been exposed, being transparent about it to the organization, to your manager, to HR, it's also something you have to mentally prepare yourself to be able to communicate this. Yeah, it's not easy to say that, hey, I've been exposed, and that social stigma that comes with it, right? Because your friends at office are going to look at you differently for a few days when you go back to work, right? And you must be prepared for that. So emotionally, physically, and mentally, you have to be prepared to be able to go back to your physical office.
Yeah, that's very true. I think it's also important that clear guidelines and clear SOPs are putting into place so that the employees know what to do if they suspect they have COVID, so that there's not so much of anxiety, because even anticipating that you have COVID is already such a anxious feeling to deal with, and not knowing how to go about that is even worse. So I think employers should take the initiative to make it very clear and make it accessible for employees to know what to do.
Yes, correct. I think sometimes not just the SOP guidelines, right? But the safe space to be able to say, hey, you know what, I suspect that I may be exposed to COVID-19. What do I do now? Who do I talk to? Just that first step is always the most challenging one.
Yes, correct, definitely. Yeah, and I think that's pretty much it for today's episode. And if you all are interested to catch more of all the things we share about being a boss at work, definitely keep a lookout for the next episode. And also do remember to check in with the Google form in the description down below to get free resources to help your company further. Once again, thank you so much, Shereen, for coming on the Work Boss podcast with me today.
It's been a pleasure, Natasha. Thank you so much to everyone for listening in as well. Yeah, stay safe and take care.
Yeah, definitely. See you all on the next one. Bye.